Welcome to another podcast. My name is Glenn Moore. 9 years ago, I interviewed a lovely man called Tjitze de Jong, a spiritual healer. Tjitze is the son of a Dutch pig farmer. He came to Scotland. He actually cycled to Scotland over 30 years ago. And by coincidence, and there are no coincidences as we know, he happened across a book in a library, excuse me, called Hands of Light by Barbara and Brennan. Some of you, I'm sure, will know the book. Anyway, this book was a seminal moment in Tjitze's life and career, you might say, because it influenced him to go and train with Barbara in America to become an energy healer. This he did and set up his own practice in Scotland. He then went on to do the teacher's training with Barbara, and as a result of that, then set up his own teaching, his own teaching group, his own teaching establishment, namely Bodies of Light. Now, he left Scotland in 2021. He's now living in Germany. I have always wanted to reconnect with him in this way, and this is why we are getting together again today. One of the reasons is because he has written a book recently on healing. He's actually the author of 3 books on healing. The first was Cancer, A Healer's Perspective, and that was written back in 2011. Then another book called A Journey Through Breast Cancer in 2020. And then the latest, which is Energetic Cellular Healing and Cancer, which was written in 2021. So Tjitze is known as an energetic spiritual healer. Whilst in Scotland, he developed a great reputation as a healer, including a strong connection with the Flindhorn Foundation. He is still healing to this day, but nowadays he's healing remotely, so he does remote healing with clients, and I'll ask him to explain that. And he is seeing clients, working with clients from all over the world. It's a delight to have Tjitze back to get an update on where he is today and where he sees healing at the moment in the sort of new world of 9 years later. Tjitze, welcome back. It's lovely to have you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Glenn, for connecting again and for taking the initiative.
You're very welcome. The thing is, Tjitze, it's lovely to, I'm very keen on doing podcasts relating to healing work because I think it's so important at this time, when more and more people, I believe, are becoming aware of, let's say, the more alternative healing modalities. So perhaps I can kick off by asking you, what exactly is energetic cellular healing? Can you just describe it for us briefly?
Yes, I can describe it. Whether I can do it briefly is another game, but basically it is transmission of energy.
Right.
And in that, the healer, me in my role, needs to be on a higher frequency of energy than the client. Because energy is like water, it flows from high to low. And that's why the sea and lakes are always at the lowest point and the rivers flow downhill. And that is the same with energy between 2 people. The person with the highest frequency of energy pours automatically or by intent energy into the person with the lowest frequency of energy. And the person of the highest frequency of energy is then called healer. The person with the lowest frequency of energy is called client.
Oh.
And it involves many specific healing techniques which are then studied at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. from 97 to 2001, and then later, as you mentioned, the 2 years of teacher training. And over the years, so that is a long time ago, that's more than 20 years ago that I graduated, 25, quarter of a century. God. And over the years, I've also really developed own healing techniques in addition to that, with such a kind of positive result that indeed clients, when I still lived in Scotland, traveled from all over the world to come and visit me, to come and also train with me in the healing school. And that still happens now, although people do not come anymore in person. It is all now happening remotely, and that is still incredibly effective.
Mm, beautiful. So it's actually about running energy through the body and with your hands, basically, hence hands of light.
Yes, with hands, but also now remotely, my hands do not stretch all over the globe.
Right, of course.
So it has happened by intention. And
Okay.
intention is a very simple word, but it's very powerful in its significance and its meaning for all our actions, all our futures that we want to put into manifesting. Therefore, intention is the key to energy healing.
Mm, okay. So you don't need anyone to be in the same room as you. You can do it
No,
remotely.
yeah,
Perfect. Yeah. I'd like to sort of go back to basics. I mean, let's talk a little bit about the body. Um,
the physical body or the energetic body, Glenn.
well, this is you've anticipated me. Very good. So, perhaps just describe briefly for people watching, what the body is in terms of its, um, not just its physicality, but its layers and
Yeah,
the energetic element.
yeah.
Are we energy beings? Are we physical beings? Are we both, etc.?
Okay, with my remark interrupting you a bit tongue in cheek, we have two bodies which you are very much aware of, physical body, energetic body. We are basically energy beings incarnated in the flesh, born, conceived, and developing over the years or decades that we live on planet Earth in a physical body. Simultaneously, we have an energy body. It doesn't leave us when we incarnate. And our energy body basically has three aspects. That is the chakras, seven main chakras, but we have hundreds of minor chakras all over the body in every joint, etc., etc. But there are seven main chakras, which most people will be familiar with now through yoga technique and Tai Chi and these kind of phenomena. Then we have the aura, energy field all around us, with seven layers in it. So seven corresponding layers corresponding to the different chakras. And each layer of the aura is being fed by each related chakra. So chakra one feeds level one of the aura, etc., etc. And then the third aspect of energetic anatomy is the vertical power current. That is an energetic line through our center of the body, of the physical body, which connects chakra 7, our crown, with chakra 1, our root, and all other 5 chakras from the front and the back connect into that vertical power current. And that's how all the chakras interrelate and communicate with each other.
Mm, very good. Okay, that sounds clear. Yeah, very clear. So let me go straight into this concept called illness. Um, Obviously, without illness, there would be no need for your service, I guess. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. There is an element, I think, of what you do as a sort of a maintenance, something that I think we did together as well when I was your client. Um, it's interesting. You say in your book that all illness is a disconnection from the divine, and almost all psychosomatic. And that could be a certain psychological imbalance or just out of balance generally. Um, can you expand on that? I mean, have we got the wrong idea about illness?
You and I haven't, because we're in tune and we learn to develop and we learn to investigate, and therefore we create a broader belief system about illness, that it is not just related to the body, but as I also state in my book, 95, 98, maybe 100% of all illness is psychosomatic.
Mm,
Means that the psyche, mind, emotion are feeding negative, imbalanced, so out of balance energies into the physical body, which then gradually over time fester and corrode inside the physical body and create illness. And that can be a common cold, that can be the flu, that can be arthritis, that can be also cancer.
mm,
And these words, festering and corroding, I love them. And they also come back time and time again in my book, Energetic Cellular Healing and Cancer, because if these imbalances, these distortions of the energy last for a short period of time, no problem.
mm,
Because then at some point, through pleasant emotions and through pleasant experiences, etc., they will dissolve, energy blocks will dissolve, and the potential of illness evaporates. But if these imbalances, this being out of balance energetically, stays inside the physical body and inside the three elements of energetic anatomy, as I just described, if they stay there for a long time, they slowly fester and corrode and affect the cells of the body. And so, through an energetic distortion, we get into a cellular, physical imbalance.
mm.
That's why also the title of the book and the title of my healing school, Energetic Cellular Healing.
Right. And does negative self-talk, for example,
Absolutely.
contribute to that?
Absolutely. Very strongly so. And that happens then very much on the mental level. And the mental level is chakra 3, the solar plexus. And that therefore feeds energy into level 3 of the aura, the yellow lines of light, about 20 centimeters away from our physical body. And when these mental images and belief systems are negative over a long period of time, it affects the chakra. The chakra becomes misaligned, becomes small, less energy filters through, or doesn't spin anymore wonderfully 100% clockwise, but starts to float horizontally or vertically or diagonally, in whatever way a chakra can be distorted. Then, indeed, that specific part of the body where chakra 3 relates to does not get the right kind of energy or doesn't get any energy at all anymore and slowly becomes depleted. And when when a physical body gets depleted long term in that sense, Glenn, then it is happening that toxicity, which our body always produces, no longer gets excreted out of the body. So it slowly builds up of toxicity, and that toxicity then creates a cellular physical block inside the body, which depletes the energy in that whole physical area. And therefore, people with negative self images and belief system, negative thought forms, what your question is about, basically in chakra 3, inner solar plexus, receive less energy for their digestive system, which is governed by chakra 3. So
Mm.
things like heartburn, indigestion, constipation, etc., can be the result of these kind of negative mindsets.
So is it is it fair then, excuse me, is it fair to say, Tjitze, that the common denominator, if there is a common denominator, um, is or are energetic blocks in the system?
Yeah.
Well, you talk about toxicity, but presumably that toxicity forms an energy block. Is that right?
The toxicity forms a physical block, but it starts off the toxic gathering, the festering and corroding starts off through a reduction of energy feeding into the body because the chakra is no longer fully open or no longer fully aligned.
mm, mm, mm,
So there lies the energy source, the psychosomatic source, feeding into the cellular body, which then no longer is able to totally excrete all toxicity which a normal body always produces, which
mm,
is normal.
mm. Yeah, some people say that, excuse me, that illness is only a message from the body. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is our task then, it is our duty to ourselves and to our physical body and to our health and well being to basically listen.
Mm,
Listen to these messages and obey them because listening alone is not enough. Because through listening, we create awareness, and with awareness, we can shift things around in our life
mm.
and adjust sails to the wind.
So you could say illness is a lesson in self-awareness. Is that true?
Bingo. Yeah. Next question, please. Yeah.
uh,
I mean,
yeah, no, yeah.
it is indeed as simple as that, Glenn.
A lesson in self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that may be hard for some people to swallow, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, you also say you also say in your book that all healing is a release from fear. Um,
Yeah.
is there a what is the fear element there? I mean, could it be any fear, or is it fear of the unknown, or I mean, fear of death, maybe?
It is any fear. That is
Okay.
indeed also fear of the unknown, and it is also fear of death. It is also fear of life, and it is fear of stepping into the fullness of life.
Mm,
It is fear, because if you step into the fullness of life, for example, you must be able to take most likely responsibilities onto your plate, which seem in your limited human mind too much to handle, too much to tackle.
mm,
And people are there often loath to indeed take responsibility for their life and for their inner development and for their own healthy being.
mm,
So they restrict themselves out of fear. And if you look at Wilhelm Reich, the student of Sigmund Freud, he developed these 5 defensive character structures: the
mhm,
schizoid, the oral, the masochistic, the psychopathic, and the rigid. And each of these character defenses are based upon fear experienced at a certain stage of the child's development.
mm.
All of these character structures are based upon fear.
Wow. Yeah. And they stay with us,
And they stay with us
Yeah,
until
absolutely.
we look into it, listen to it again,
Yeah.
and create awareness around it again, and then have often the courage, the opposite of fear, then indeed have the courage to turn these fear elements around in our
Mm.
present day to day life.
Is there an element here that, are we conditioned, we, the royal we, conditioned to believe in illness as illness? And what I mean by that is, do you think, are we conditioned to believe that if we are ill or have some sort of disease, there is something wrong with us? And that in itself creates it sort of amplifies in a sense the fear, because that can bring on fears of death or incapacity in some sort. um in other words, have we been taught to think of illness as a bad thing, and therefore,
Yeah.
and you're saying in effect that it's not necessarily it's a bad thing, it's a message that we can address, through our own self-awareness. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. We are taught and told by society in general, also by the media, also by the pharmaceutical industry, etc., that illness is a bad thing, and that we therefore need to give our own fate, so to speak, into the hands of the people who know into
Mm.
the hands of people with authority, the people with the white coat on, the doctor with a stethoscope around the neck, and these kind of classical images.
Yeah.
And instead of taking self responsibility,
Mm. Mm.
and it
Mm.
is the sense of self responsibility which I keep teaching to my clients and to my students when I still at a healing school.
Yeah. Yeah. And just going back to what you said about the character defense structures, the Wilhelm Reich
Yeah,
creations, for want of a better word, his perception of those factors. Um, is that all about fear and pain avoidance? I mean,
yeah,
is it, yeah, okay,
yeah. As simple as that. You put it
right,
well.
okay, right. And so if we stop trying to avoid fear and pain, will that make
Yeah,
a difference?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because then we get into the flow of life.
Mm,
And when we are into the flow of life, we're open to life. And the hand gesture says it, then also our chakras open.
mm,
Because we welcome what is in front of us, we welcome what lies ahead of us. And when we welcome what lies in front of us and lies ahead of us, we basically are able to invite all these things into our life from a place of inner security and safety that all will be well regardless of what comes into our life,
mm,
regardless of what we invite into our life. And that faith, Glenn, makes that people live a fearless life, makes that people can be pioneers, makes that people are not affected by other people's opinion and society's norms and values, but lead their own individual lives.
mm,
And artists are a prime example of that.
right. Yes, it reminds me of the one of the quotes from your book where you say
Okay.
an outcast is always an incast somewhere else.
Exactly. I read that sentence a few weeks ago when I was preparing for this interview, and it made me laugh. Think that's a brilliant sentence.
Yes, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Okay, well let's have a look at the C word. You say in your book that cancer is a festering of suppressed emotions,
Yeah,
um, anger turned inward, or a process of misalignment. Can you expand a bit on that? I mean, is cancer in that sense any different from any other illness? I mean, obviously, qualitatively it could be, but um, is all illness also, a form of suppressed emotion?
yeah, indeed. All illness is caused by suppressed emotion, and what I also mentioned in the word in my latest book is the word suppressed. And so I'm an author, so I work with languages. So I love the linguistic aspect of how we communicate in words
Mm,
because suppressed, it presses. And whenever something gets pressed, it gets dense and condensed.
mm,
And there is very little space and freedom of movement inside the compressed, suppressed kind of emotion or
mm,
physical body for that matter.
mm,
And if you reread the book, Glenn, in one of the first chapters, I briefly introduced a girl, small girl, 7 years old, I think, when she came to my clinic in Carlisle, north of England, called Libby, who had a
mhm.
very dense, suppressed physical body, and it was an incredible, painful thing to see that lass, only 7 years old, and so totally suppressed. What was your question? Because I get off in a tangent and I talk and I talk and I talk.
Well, let me. I mean, I think you've answered the question, but let me
Oh, good.
let me sort of subcategorize it, so to speak. What about anger? Because I think anger
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and resentment,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll come on to this. Dr. Hamer, for example, talked about resentment as a trigger for cancer. And
Yeah.
I think anger and resentment are fairly closely related. Um, so Can you expand a little bit on that? I mean,
Yeah.
how does anger sort of you know make things, sort of create the foundation for cancer, if it
Well,
does?
according to Louisa Hay, anger is stored in a physical organ called liver.
Hmm.
So, whatever we find difficult to digest energetically in relation to the anger that we experience in our life gathers inside and around the liver and makes indeed that organ more condensed. So, it's very interesting to see. I did not really look into that, but if people have liver problems and or cancer of the liver, what is the anger element in their life like?
So it's unexpressed anger. Is that what you're saying?
Most likely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
to a large extent. And it is with every emotion. And then if people don't express grief, for example, grief sits in the heart, fourth chakra, and in the relational cords from the heart chakra into other people, which they have lost or which after divorce they have, yeah, also lost, but in a different way. And so people with unexpressed grief often have then physical symptoms, including possibly cancer, in that whole chest region, which gets fed by the heart chakra.
Mm.
So it might be lung cancer. Lung stores grief, again, according to Louisa Hay, for
Right.
that reason, precisely that reason.
Okay. Yeah. Now, one of the chapters in your book is
Yeah.
headed, Is Cancer Subconscious Suicide?
Yeah.
And I was very intrigued by that, but even more intrigued, playing devil's advocate slightly, that you didn't seem to answer the question in the chapter. In other words, you didn't
Okay.
you seem to be on the fence a little bit.
Oh, that was not my intention. And when I reread the chapter again for the first time after several years, I had totally forgotten that I'd written it in the first place, totally forgotten that it was included in the book, and it
Right.
surprised me myself. Um, but the way certain people described in that book, in that chapter, go about or went about their healing journey, then it is ever so clear, although I might not have put it exactly precisely in wording, that their actions or their non actions specifically,
Mm.
basically, they choose not to take the full advantage of all healing possibilities and all healing potential that lie available for them.
Right.
And if people do not take every opportunity possible and ignore it, then indeed cancer or other illnesses can keep festering and corroding.
Mm.
One prime example for with in relation to cancer, for example, is diet,
Mm.
because cancer cells love sugars. Carbohydrates, when we eat that in bread and pizza and whatever else, get stored in the body in glucose, in the form of glucose or sugars. Therefore, if we keep eating these kind of products, although we might know rationally sugar is bad for our cancer because it feeds the cancer cells, but people have an inner rebel, me included, you included as well.
Go
And that inner rebel says, well, forget it. I want to have that slice of bread with cheese today. I want to eat, go to the pizzeria. I want to just not bother about my illness for 1 or 2 days.
on. Mm.
And if that happens, and if a client, for example, comes to me for week after week after week for a while, then I instantly, when they do that, sense that in their bloodstream is more of an element of glucose present in the body. And
Mm.
therefore, I know, oops, they've gone off the rails with the diet. Oops, they might therefore increase the risk of cancer spreading, cancer reoccurring, and undermining the healing process.
Right.
And I address that when I then work with people. I write it in my healing report. Now we're doing distant healing. Um, and ask them if they have been skipping the healthy dietary regime for a bit, and make them again aware of the fact that cancer cells indeed feed off sugars. And that is so important, Glenn, to realize, because go to the Tesco in Forest, go to your supermarket, yeah?
Hmm.
How many products there contain sugar?
Well, I can actually answer that to some extent
Okay,
because
come on
you,
then.
well, let me just say this. It's a nice little anecdote that I sometimes tell people. And, believe it or not, this was my experience. Years ago, I was seeing a Chinese healer, a Chinese medicine practitioner, and he told me to stop eating sugar. So, you know,
Okay,
eat nothing with sugar in. So
yeah,
there I was naively going to the supermarket and looking at all the labels.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
guess what? Everything had sugar, even
Yeah,
if it was
exactly.
0.1%, even chicken and God knows what,
Yeah,
God knows where it came from. But I found two things, only two things with zero point 0.0 sugar.
okay.
And you know what those are?
Come on then.
Okay, so olives and olive oil.
Yeah, ha, incredible.
So yeah, that was quite a revelation.
Yeah.
But yeah, years ago. Anyway, I'm sure
So
it hasn't
therefore,
changed much.
for me to play the devil's advocate, yeah, how much input does the pharmaceutical industry have in the production of food?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
we all know that the pharmaceutical industry on the whole creates trillions of dollars and pounds on euros and in profits. How much influence do they have on the production of food and the content of the food production?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
if they feed people consciously all this kind of negative crap and unhealthy stuff, illness is rife,
mm,
profits are booming.
yeah. Well, I think we all know the business model of the pharmaceutical industry, and they, their business model is based on people getting ill, whether it's
Yeah,
through what they eat or
yeah.
whatever reason.
And to
That's
keep
clear.
people alive as long as possible, so that they have to keep taking the medicine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
as one marketing person of Goldman Sachs said at some point in some kind of lecture in some kind of conference, every client who dies is a customer lost.
Mm, yeah.
A
Yeah.
very poignant sentence, Glenn. A very
Yeah.
poignant
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. But let me just go back
Yeah,
briefly to subconscious suicide, right? Because I just want to share another little anecdote with you. Years ago, actually, it was one of the first persons, it was the first person I interviewed for my Sharing Your Passion series, a mentor of mine called Terry Tillman. And he was a facilitator for a series of personal development seminars back in the 80s and 90s. Anyway, cut a long story short, he told us that if someone came to him and said that they've got cancer, his immediate question was, when did you decide to die? Now, that's
yeah.
quite harsh, isn't it? And I'm sure,
I wouldn't go that far, but
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I absolutely.
But I did a little research and I discovered that deer, the animal, um, often contract, if that's the right word, cancer at their end of their life. It's a form of,
Okay.
you might say euthanasia, which I'll come on to. Um,
And what do they say then? Oh dear.
yes. Well, I
Sorry.
knew I could rely on you to exactly. But their time has come. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
anyway. But there you are.
That reminds you a little bit of that one monk in Plusgarden Abbey, just over the hill from
Oh
where you live in
yes,
Piedmont,
yes.
yeah, who 10, 15 years ago, he was late 80s or something, wandered into the woods, knowing that his time had come, and he died. Nobody has ever found his body. Nobody's ever seen him again.
Yeah.
He died totally peacefully in God's environment.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe he turned into a deer.
Indeed, or came back as a deer in a
Yeah,
in
whatever.
a
Yeah,
new
yeah, yeah,
incarnation. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, we're getting off the subject totally, but okay.
Yes, I think we're a bit off topic, aren't we? Let's talk about giving up. I mean, it seems that a lot of people with cancer, believe in the fatal, the fatal disease label that it's often given,
Yeah.
and this idea that there is no cure for it, etc. Um, and in your book, you refer to, I think, one lady who decides to um, end her life, um, which is possible in the Netherlands and I think also
Hmm.
in Switzerland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not legal so far as I'm aware here. Um,
Scotland
you
is
know,
going to choose for assisted death.
assisted death,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I mean, what's your views on that? I mean, it's a pretty damning consequence, isn't it, of this label called cancer?
Yes. Well, talking about euthanasia, my mother chose euthanasia,
Oh,
and
yes, that's right.
her story is indeed written in my book because she had cancer of the esophagus, and I gave her a few healings, which was very much an immense privilege for me as her son. It was
Mm,
just incredible, and she responded well to it. But all the people around her, including the medical profession, had this whole doom and gloom scenario spread out towards her from, yes, we need to do this and we need to do this and radiotherapy and whatever else. And at some point, she chose radiotherapy and felt so ill through the after effects of it and so downtrodden and so low in energy and so tired and nauseous and vomiting and all that kind of stuff that she simply, in a very assertive way, she was 81 years old at that point, in a very assertive way, went to the radiologist for an appointment and said, "Thank you very much for your positive intention towards me. Thank you for all the effort you put into it, but I will stop all treatments here because I do not like the side effects."
mm,
And then she asked her three children, my brother, my sister, and myself, "How do you feel about me choosing euthanasia?" And we all agreed. She had no long road of physical suffering. She was totally aware what she'd chosen. She could consciously say goodbye to all the people around her and to her children. And Glenn, it was gorgeous.
mm,
And of course, there was the grief afterwards and the missing afterwards, and all that does not stop the grieving, absolutely not. But there was a sense of graceful surrendering. And that sense of graceful surrendering is often not the case when people are being kept alive artificially.
mm,
Because they suffer immense side effects of chemotherapy and radiotherapy and other medication quite often. And therefore, their whole journey towards death becomes months, weeks, years of agony and suffering.
mm,
And that's not
mm,
healthy.
mm.
That's not
Sure.
healthy for themselves. That's healthy for the soul experience as incarnated human beings. And it is absolutely also not healthy for the people, the loved ones, the near and dear ones who care for them.
Mm,
So I'm all for euthanasia. But it is not an escape route. Like also in the Netherlands, I then experienced it firsthand with my mother. Three different doctors need to indeed write a report that the illness is no longer curable,
okay.
independent from each other. I
So you
stayed
can't
with,
just choose it then. You
oh
have to
God, no,
get
no, no, no. It is a
official
thorough,
official
it,
permission, as it were.
yeah, 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 official permission, but it's thoroughly investigated medically as well.
Mm,
And then I spent the last 48 hours or so with her. I traveled over from Scotland to see her and to be with her when she died. And On the morning of the death of the day of her death, she was going to die at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's beautifully planned, very rigidly Dutch. But in the morning, her GP still came over to her and asked her if she still was okay with it, if she still had made the right choice. That GP, Jig Glenn, stayed for about an hour with her.
Mm.
And that was beautiful to see. They built up a beautiful relationship, mother and GP. And afterwards, the GP came over to me, knowing about my kind of work, and asked me if I was okay with it. And also totally okay with it. So it was a beautiful, thorough, loving process.
Mm.
And especially that word, a loving process.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thanks very much for that, Tjitze. Let's talk about the cure for cancer. Now, I understand that you're not allowed, or at least you said in the previous interview, that you weren't allowed to suggest or indicate to anyone that you are able to cure cancer. But there is, and in my lead up to this, I'd like to refer to the video that you referred to in the book, Cancer Cured in 3 Minutes.
Mm,
The
Braden.
Chinese non-medical hospital
Yeah.
where a lady, as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, went in with bladder cancer, and within 3 minutes was the cancer was dissolved, with perhaps for most people a rather unusual procedure, at least in conventional thinking.
Well, let me
Yes, you please go
take
ahead
then,
and describe it.
and at the same time link that up with what you asked me before about negative thought forms, how
Mm,
they affect the body and affect possible cancer, whatever else. Okay, the woman in question had been in hospital for a while already and had been treated and into the medicine-free cancer hospital in China, which is now closed by the Chinese authority.
oh, really? Okay.
Unfortunately, it
Mm,
became too powerful. Haha. Um, and at some point, she was lying on a bed, had monitors attached to her, and on the screen behind her were two pictures. One is a picture of the tumor in its existence, as it was, and as a projection on the screen of the momentary picture there and then. And the other picture was a film developing filming the development of the tumor in real time. Around her bed stood 3 or 4, I don't remember, energetic practitioners
mm,
who all basically spoke positive words. The healing is done. The healing has been performed. Cancer has finished,
mm,
etc., etc. These kind of very positive affirmations, feeding that positivity into the woman's stomach tumor. It was not bladder, it was stomach, but it's better because stomach, third chakra, solar plexus chakra, part of the digestive system, is being fed energy through the mental chakra, through mental thoughts and images, thought forms.
mm,
These 3 or 4 people around the bed projecting that positive thought form for 3 minutes into the person involved with mental cancer, i.e., digestive cancer, and because they've been specifically trained and held a high energy frequency throughout doing so, and the woman had been well prepared in that sense, we could see on the screen behind her the live picture, the live film, that indeed within 3 minutes the whole tumor dissolved.
mm. Yes, it's
So it is again the positive belief system and the positive affirmations. That's the power of affirmation.
mm. So cancer can be cured.
Absolutely.
Mm,
And for example, I mentioned also in the book Dr. Rife in San Diego, California, who 90 years ago, so in the 30s of the previous century, developed an energetic machine with which he managed to cure hundreds of so-called terminally ill cancer patients.
mm,
That is documented, well known over the world, So then, 90 years ago, there was a cure for cancer. What happened to him? His office got broken into, all stuff was being destroyed, and he ended up dying in poverty in Mexico.
Mm. Yeah. This reminds me of the famous quote from William James, Tjitze. He said, in order to disprove the assertion that all crows are black, one white crow is sufficient. Ergo, if one person is cured
Yeah,
of cancer,
yeah,
then it disproves the assertion that cancer is
yeah,
incurable or fatal,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite extraordinary.
And I've seen loads of examples of that. Okay, in my own clinic,
Mm,
in my own practice through our own work, not just my work, but also the client's work. We need full cooperation and amongst each other. But also a person, for example, called Anita Moorjani,
mm,
who wrote the book Dying to Be Me. She lives in Hong Kong, and also knocked on death's door, but cured her cancer fully.
mm,
She's
mm.
still alive 10, 15, 20 years later and travels the world and is a world famous. Um, so absolutely it's possible.
Yeah, there's also
It is not a death sentence.
no. Well, there's also, you may know the famous the American guy, was it Norman Hopkins, who cured himself by huge quantities of vitamin C and watching old Marx Brothers
Yeah,
films.
exactly. Yeah. And I also mention that again I mentioned a lot in my book, but also positive emotions, pleasure, joy, fun, laughter
Mm,
create endorphins, happy hormones in our body.
mm,
William Bloom from England wrote a wonderful book about that, the endorphin effect, and a new age wonderful technique called laughter yoga is also based upon that same phenomenon.
mm.
Laughter creates fun and creates therefore endorphins and therefore strengthens the immune system. It's
Right.
all proven now. It's all proven now scientifically that these things happen and have an effect on our well-being.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, but you boost the immune system and thereby avoid illness.
Yeah,
Singing, dancing, being happy, etc. Laughter yoga, as you say, and all these things can all have a very positive effect.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, there is a theory that cancer is just bad luck. What do you think of that?
yeah. That was it. I described it
Playing
also.
devil's advocate,
Yeah. So bad luck means you basically buy a lottery ticket and don't win.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
And the outcome of the lottery game for that week depends on that big ball in which all these small balls are rolling and some of them being taken out and they are the winning numbers. Yeah.
Mm,
So that is not in your hands. That is in the hands of luck or fate
right.
or whatever else. And that means you have no influence on it. With illness, cancer included, you have a lot of influence on the outcome of your life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore, the fact that having cancer is bad luck is a totally wrong statement. It disempowers the person in question.
Mm, yeah,
And
absolutely.
we are very powerful beings
Mm,
in the way we think, feel, live.
yeah. Chitz, I'd like to talk about aging and the possibility of reverse aging. You are, I believe, I don't know if you saw the podcast I did a few months ago on med beds.
Yep.
And I want to ask you about them. Um, as you know, we are told there is information to the effect that med beds can basically cure anything and everything,
Yeah.
including regrowing limbs, regrowing teeth, and just recreating the body in effect in its original template. Now, perhaps I can ask you before I come on to aging, how do you see medbeds fitting into what you are doing or have been doing? Is this complementary or a possibility that you won't be needed anymore? Sorry to be
Well,
blunt.
I would very happily not be needed anymore, Glenn, because
Right.
not that I become lazy or don't want to give the healing. To provide healings for people, for complete strangers, is and remains an immense privilege, and I love
Mm,
it. After when did I first come across Barbara Brandon's book in 1995? So that is now 30 years ago. Yeah, and I'm
mm,
still passionate about the stuff. So I'd love to be needed, not from an ego perspective, but from that gratitude perspective. Do mad beds make me or make us as healers no longer needed and required for society? I don't think so. Because mad beds, as far as I understand it, are curative. They can also be preventative, most likely, is my
mm,
guess, but I don't know enough about that aspect of them. Um, and energy healing definitely prevents illness of entering the body through our energetic anatomy into our physical body. And if prevention is the best cure, and therefore, if we can prevent illness from happening, then clients, people no longer need the medical profession, also might not need med beds to that extent,
mm.
and also at some point might not be us as healers when they are in desperate need because they've fallen ill.
Yeah.
Um, if indeed med beds are able to perform all the healing that they promise, and it seems they can, then that is brilliant.
Mm.
Where does that leave, back to your initial question around the subject, where does it leave aging? It's a very interesting question because we might not age physically then, we might not age energetically, but does that make us happy?
Mm. Wow, that's a good question. I mean,
Because
there is a
if we as individual choose to indeed every month have a med bed session and
mm,
not age, but all the people around us don't, then in 20 years' time, we are alone with nobody around us who has got the same kind of template, the same kind of conditioning, the same kind of history, the same kind of whatever else. And we might feel incredibly lonely.
well, okay. Well, yeah, that's one perspective, I guess. I mean, the I've been told, and I'm just repeating this
Yeah.
for the sake of the question, that potentially med beds can reverse aging by up to 30 years. Now, what that means in practice in terms of the practical condition of the body, I don't know, and I don't pretend to know, and I'm not going to speculate. But let me ask you this. Your own healing, put aside med beds for the moment, the healing work that you do, isn't that a form of reverse aging? Maybe not 30 years, but I mean, if you build up the immune system, doesn't that assist the longevity of a person potentially?
Potentially, yes. I've never really looked at it in that way, so your question takes me by surprise, but that's a fascinating perspective, Glenn. Um, yes, we strengthen the immune system, definitely. We can remove illnesses to a certain extent or fully in many cases as well. And that then increases aging, increases longevity. So yes, I do think that people on the whole live longer when they indeed undergo energetic healing.
Mm,
But that should not exclude, back to the same point of many, many minutes ago, that should not exclude the fact that they remain self-responsible for their health and healing
Mm.
and the upkeep thereof. That remains
Yeah.
the self-responsibility. And of course, part of this self-responsibility is then indeed to choose weekly or monthly or whatever sessions. And that can work well, but it is not the one and only aspect that they need to follow.
Mm.
It is also exercise in a healthy way without pressure. It is also nutrition in a healthy way without pressure. It is also living a life purpose filled life so they remain spiritual, inspired, and dedicated to their physical and emotional and mental and spiritual life, etc., etc. So there are many aspects to that.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, in our original interview, I think I asked you about the ultimate, who is the ultimate healer, and you said that each client basically is his or her own healer.
Yeah,
And we all know that the placebo effect is proof that you can heal yourself.
yeah,
Now, in terms of cancer and illness generally, I think we also know that our thoughts are powerful enough to bring things into existence and also to, if you like, endorse through the energy, through the thoughts and beliefs we have to maintain that existence, including illness, right? So, um, is ultimately, leaving aside self-healing for the moment, is it ultimately all about our beliefs and what we believe about illness and what we believe about cancer? Is that really the biggest challenge, do you think?
that is not an easy question to answer with yes or no. You also don't want me to answer yes or no, um, because that image and belief system and that positive mindset involves all aspects of life.
Mm.
That involves also healthy food. That involves also making the sometimes not very pleasant effort of exercising and still going out for a long walk or a bike ride, even when it is windy and stormy and rainy and that kind of stuff. So it brings up certain unpleasant, uncomfortable activities. But in the end, yes, if we say, for example, when I lived still in my previous house in Scotland, where I visited often, on the banks of River Findhorn, one of the ways I kept myself healthy was cycling, as you mentioned earlier already, and also going into River Findhorn 3, 4, 5 times a week, also in winter.
Mm.
So swimming also with chunks of ice floating from high up in the river, going past my ears, and that kept my immune system incredibly strong,
Mm.
which was sometimes bloody uncomfortable because coming out the river, standing with the bare feet in the snow, drying myself, yeah, that was cold,
Yeah.
but it kept my immune system very strong.
There's a wonderful section in your book where you talk about healing through loving kindness. And
Yeah,
we've talked about what um, illness is and to some extent what it isn't. Um, Let me ask you this. Is illness the absence of love?
yeah, to a large extent. Yeah, and when we look at the experiments of Japanese scientist Emoto, with who investigated water crystals and how water crystals or yeah how water crystals responded to different environmental circumstances, to beautiful classical music or to heavy metal music or to harsh wordings or to loving wordings, etc., etc. That created an immense difference in the cellular structure of the water.
Mm.
And our bodies contain 70%, 80%, whatever, of water. So we get affected by that immensely. And he also discovered that the most beautiful water crystals that formed were initiated by the words love and gratitude.
Mm,
And therefore, Glenn, if we live as constantly as we possibly can in a sphere of love and gratitude, we create beautiful water crystals in our body.
mm. Healthy
With,
crystals.
Betty?
Healthy crystals,
Yeah,
presumably.
healthy crystals, happy crystals.
Mm,
And if you then combine that with laughter, joy, fun, and create happy hormones called endorphins in our physique, then yes, we can create a
yeah,
much stronger, healthier, more vibrant immune system and are less prone to getting any kind of illness.
yes, beautiful. Yeah, yeah. There's a beautiful. I mean, I love that you referred in your book to the uh, the insight card from the transformation game. For those um, watching, the transformation game was a board game created by a couple of ladies in the Findhorn community. And one of the insight cards, which is a card you draw during the game, or you may draw it amongst many others, states there is no force in all of creation greater than the healing power of love. So, not just the power of love, the healing
Mm.
power of
Yeah,
love.
yeah,
Um, and I would imagine, Tjitze, that you agree with that, do you?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I also love the game. I've been a
Mm,
facilitator of it for almost 30 years now, trained in Findhorn. And the game is a wonderful therapeutic self healing tool, which you can play yourself as well. It's a wonderful game, the transformation game. And indeed, it's got immensely upped insight cards, setback cards, and blessing cards. It's a phenomenally put game, partly through guidance through Kathy Tyler and Joy Drake. And the game is just incredible. And
mm,
the messages it brings to the people, to the players, are often really groundbreakingly, wonderfully phenomenal work for them, inner work, therapeutic work.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Tjitse, we're coming to the end of our time together. So thank you very much. This has been fantastic, as was the series of previous interviews. Um, do you have a message, something you'd like to share with the audience about healing, where it is, maybe the future of healing, what you would most want people to go away with having watched this interview? What would that be?
What I would love people and all of humanity as a whole to get into is a state of taking self responsibility
Mm,
through self awareness, through inner listening, and taking time, taking quiet, lonely time now and then to simply listen to what our body tells us. And our body, then, our physical body, and indeed our energetic body, if we have developed a extrasensory perception to perceive chakras, aura, and such energetic phenomena. And therefore, we can take responsibility and then have the courage to step forth and implement these aspects of life that need to be implemented for us to remain on track on our life's path
mm.
as light beings incarnated into the physical body during this incarnation.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah. So just before we leave, just another reminder of Chitza's book,
Thank you.
which I highly recommend. Um, and we've covered part of it, but only a very small part of it in this interview. There is a lot more there, including I think it's 13, is it, or 14 examples of your
Yeah.
healings where Chitza has actually related how and in what circumstances he has helped various individuals with cancer to recover in many cases and lead a normal life, which is fantastic. Um, Tjitze, how do people contact you if they wanted to get in touch with you for a healing?
Send me an email, and that
So
is
your email is, do you want to say that out loud on the screen, or I can put it in the description?
yeah, I can put it in the description, and it is also tjitzedeong2020 @gmail.com.
Okay, Tjitze
No,
de
no
Jong.
points, no hyphens, no nothing, just totally my name
Okay,
in small letters. Tjitzedeong2020 @gmail.com.
okay, great. Thanks
And I
very
will
much for that.
respond. Yeah.
Excellent. So thank you very much, Tjitze. This has
And
been
thank you,
great.
Glenn. Thank you for
Beautifully.
being kind to me.
Ah,
Thank you for
you're
taking the time
welcome.
and effort to do all this work, to make all this podcast and interviews, because you do spread very useful message for humanity, whether they wish to listen yet or not.
Right, absolutely. Thanks very much. And thank you all for watching, for listening. I hope there's been value for you here. Join me for the next podcast. In the meantime, once again, many thanks to Tjitze. Go well, Tjitze. Keep in touch. I'm sure we'll be speaking again soon. Until then, it's a goodbye from me, and
And goodbye
yeah,
from me.
a goodbye from you. Thanks again. Okay,
Okay, ciao,
bye
ciao.
everyone. Bye.